Begin today the Gemara on the bottom of Daf Hey Amud Beis, the last line. We were talking here about Tveria regarding the suffix, if it's a Mekofes Chaim or not. So the Gemara is going to talk about Tveria. What is Tveria? Where is Tveria? What are the other names that Tveria has? And it's going to go through other locations and names in Eretz Yisrael as well. Let's see. Rabbi Yochanan said, Ki avina Talia, when I was young, Amina Milsa, I said something, the She'ilna L'Savya, and then I asked the older people about this, and V'shtakech Kavasi. And it came out that what I said was right. And what is this that he asked about? Or what he said about? Hamas zu Tveria. The place Hamas, as we brought before, there's a pasuk that calls a certain place Hamas. What is this place Hamas? Tveria. So why did it get this nickname Hamas? Al Shum Chamei Tveria. Because of the springs, the hot springs that are there in Tveria, it got this name. Then when it said in the pasuk that there's a place called Rakas. What is this place? Rakas Tzipairi. This refers to the city Tzipairi. Rakas. How did it get the name Rakas? Mishum the medallia, because it's raised up, it's a higher place. Raksa denara. Just like when you come to a river bank and you're higher up than in the river, so that's therefore Tzipairi also got this nickname. Kineres, when it says in the pasuk a place called Kineres, and we're not talking about the Kineres, the water, we're talking about a place. So what's the name of this place? Zu Ginoisar. This is the place called Ginoisar. V'loma nikra shmo Kineres. How did it get the nickname Kineres? The Mesiki Peire Kekala de Kinri. Because the fruits that grow there are as sweet as the sound of a kinoir, of a harp. Okay, so this is what Rabbi Yochanan said. He said when he was young. Amar so Rav asked on this, how could this be? Amar, is there anybody that says that Rekes lav Tveri, that Rekes is not Tveria, that Rekes refers to Tzipairi, as he said, and Tveria is called Hamas? Is there anybody that says this? And he brings here what we see, what we know, that Rekes is Tveria. When there's someone that passes away here, which is in Bavel. So Hassam, so over there in Eretz Yisrael, and it refers actually, Hassam refers specifically to the city of Tveria, Sabti lehachi. They would eulogize him as follows. Gadol hu b'Sheshach. He was a great person in Sheshach. Sheshach is Bavel. How does Sheshach come to Bavel? So Rashi says, at bash. If you exchange the beis for a shin, just like you could exchange the aleph with a tav, the beis with a shin, so you get Sheshach instead of Bavel. And v'shem loy berekes. And his name, or his fame, came all the way to Eretz Yisrael, to Rekes, which refers to Tveria. We're talking about the people in Tveria. So we see this is one scenario where we see that the people in Tveria, they call themselves Rekes. And also when they brought a coffin of a dead person to Eretz Yisrael, Sabti lehachi. So over there in Tveria, they would eulogize him as follows. Oyevei Sridim, the one that loved the remnants, which refers to Yidden. Yoshvei Rekes, the people living in Rekes, which is in Tveria. Tzu v'kiblu aruge oimek. Go and receive the people that passed away in Bavel. That's the second place we see that Tveria is called Rekes. Yoshvei Rekes, and it was the people in Tveria that would say this. A third thing, Kinoch Nafshe de Rabzeida, when Rabzeida passed away, so the story with Rabzeida is well known. He was first in Bavel, and then he decided to go up to Eretz Yisrael, and that's when he fasted to forget the Torah in Bavel in order to learn the Torah in Eretz Yisrael. So now when Abzeda passed away, he was also living in Tveria. Pasach aleh hu sabdana. So this person that eulogized him opened up and said, Eretz Shinar harav yolada, the land of Shinar, which is Bavel, conceived and gave birth to Abzeda. And Eretz Tzvi, the land which is the land of a deer, right? It's compared to the hide of a deer, which stretches and condenses. So Gidlo Shashuel, it raised up this beauty, this great person of coming from Bavel, which is Rabzeira. Oina la Amra Rekes. Woe to it, Rekes says, the city of Tveria, which is called Rekes, Ki Avda Klichem Dasa. It lost this beautiful vessel in Rabzeira's passing away. So we see in all these different expressions there, the Rekes refers to Tveria. Ela Marave, so the Greer says Rave, because Rave is the one that asked the question on what Rabbi Yochanan that said. So Rave said that rather Hamas Zuchame Grar. Hamas does not refer to Tveria, but it refers to the hot springs in Grar. Rekes Tveria, and Rekes actually does refer to Tveria. And Kineres, that is Uginoisa. So now V'lama Nikrishma Rekes. So why was Tveria called Rekes? Shafile, Rekan and Shabbat was such a great city that even the people that are empty in it, but Malay and mitzvahs kerime, they're really full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate. Rabbi Yirmi says another pshat, Rekes Shema. No, it's the other way around. The name of the place was Rekes. V'lama nikra Shema Tveria. How did it get a nickname of Tveria? Sheyisheves betabura shel Eretz Yisrael, because Tveria is in the center of Eretz Yisrael. Okay, this is another pshat here. Rabba Amar Rekes Shema. That also he said his name was Rekes. V'lama nikra Shema Tveria. How did it get the nickname of Tveria? Sheteva Ri'iyasa. Its appearance is very nice. What does this refer to? So Taisa says that it has beautiful gardens and orchards. Now, so this is the discussion regarding Tveria and Rekes. Now the Gemara brings another place, Kitrein. The Gemara is soon going to bring a pasuk where it calls a place Kitrein. So Zu Tzipairi. That's another name for Tzipairi. Or actually, Kitrein is the name of the place, and Tzipairi is the nickname. V'lama nikra Shema Tzipairi. Why did it get this nickname of Tzipairi? Sheyisheves b'roisha k'tzipar. Because it's a place that sits on the tip of the mountain like a bird. And the Gemara asks now, the Kitrein Tzipairi, is Kitrein actually Tzipairi? V'ha-Kitrein b'chelka shel Zvulun havoi. Kitrein is a city that's in the portion of Zvulun. The Chsiv Zvulun le'hayrish is yeshvei Kitrein. When Zvulun was living in Kitrein, he didn't expel the Goyim that were living there in Kitrein, and or Ves Yeshvei Nahalol, or the people that were living in Nahalol, which was also in his territory. He didn't expel them. The Gemara is going to go through here a little bit of an arichis regarding the portion of Zvulun, and eventually it's going to come back to asking the question that you can't say that Tzipairi is Kitrein, which is in the portion of Zvulun. Okay, so now Zvulun, so he had Kitrein in his territory, he has Nahalol, and also Misraim al Midaisav Hava. Zvulun complained about his portion that he received in Eretz Yisrael. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Zvulun am cheref nafshel amaves, and Zvulun wants to die. Why did he want to die? He was so unhappy with the portion that he had. And Matan, what's the reason for this? Mishum de Naftali al meroim meisada. He looked at the portion of Naftali and he said, "Look, Naftali is in the highest places and beautiful fields." Zvulun lifnei Kadosh Baruch Hu. Zvulun says today, "Rebbeinu shalei the Master of the universe, le'achai to my brothers, nasata lem sada is the kramim fields and vineyards, and veli nasata harim ugvois. You give me these mountains and hills, but it's not a place where I can plant, and there's no orchards here. So what am I going to do? Le'achai nasata lem aratzais. For my brothers you gave beautiful lands, and veli nasata yamim menores. And in my territory there's waters, there's rivers. And what am I going to do with this?" The Eibishter answered him, everybody's going to have to come to you. You're going to become very rich. Everyone's going to come to you for the chalazin, to get the tcheles from the chalazin. Shenem, as it says in the pasuk, Amim har yikro. All the Yidden from all the different shvatim are going to come to this mountain, and what do they have over there? Sfunei tmunei chayil. What is Sfunei tmunei chayil? So Tani Rav Yosef, Sfunei, which means a special, something very unique and special, zeh chalazin. It refers to the chalazin that has a tcheles. Tumunei zeh tris. This is a certain kind of fish that's called tris. Maybe this is the tuna I saw somewhere. I'm not sure if that's true or not. But he'll be basically the one with the good fish. Chayil zu schuches levana. Chayil is a certain kind of sand that you make white glass from it. Maybe this is crystal. So they have the unique sand that could be used for this. So you have also very good resources that you can make a lot of money from it, even if you don't have fields and vineyards. But Zvulun still complained today, who's going to come let me know when people come and take? People are going to come to my territory, pick up from the resources, from the natural treasures that they have there, and they're going to go walk off with it. How am I going to know about this? They're never going to pay me. The Eibishter answers, no, Sham Yizbechu Zivchei Tzedek. People are going to come, they're going to slaughter a carbon of righteousness. What does this mean? So Rashi says, just like by a carbon, you can't steal and bring a carbon. That's a mitzvah baba veda. Right? It's not accepted as a carbon. So too, people are going to come and take and pay for it. They're going to come and take with justice. Simin zeh yehelucha. This is going to be a simin for you. Kolaneitel muchabel damim. Whoever's going to take from you anything without paying, it's not going to be helpful for him, useful for him in his business at all. He's not going to make money off this. So everyone's going to pay you. So you're going to be rich. Okay, so now this is the end of the story with Zvulun. So what do we see here? Zvulun was complaining that the lands the Eibishter gave him are just hills and mountains, and there's nothing beautiful about them, nothing beneficial for them. And the Eibishter has to come and answer him. No, you're going to have the chalazin, you have this resource, another resource. Now the question is, what's with Tzipairi? If you're going to say Kitrain, which is in the territory of Zvulun, is Tzipoiri, why is he complaining about his portion? We know Tzipoiri is a beautiful place to go to. So therefore, why is he complaining? So the Gemara suggests to say, but maybe we can say the Lesbo Zavas Cholav Advash. Yeah, could be it's a beautiful place, but what's the mile of Eretz Yisrael? The mile is that it's a land that it flows milk and honey. Maybe that mile of Cholav and Dvash you don't have over here in Tzipoiri. That's what he was complaining about. Apparently others had more. That's what the Gemara is thinking to say, and he didn't have it. So the Gemara, but this is not true. It's the opposite is true. Rish Lakish said about the greatness of the city Tzipoiri. I saw the flow of the milk and the honey in Tzipoiri. It was 16 square miles. Mil, not exactly miles, but mil, which is similar to miles. Which Rashi says, if you want to use the measurement of a parsa, this is 4 parsa by 4 parsa. Okay, so every mil is a quarter of a parsa. So it's 4 parsa by 4 parsa. A pretty big area of having milk and honey there. Now you might argue and say, yeah, Hitaka had a lot of Zavas Cholav Advash, but maybe the other Shvatim had even more than him. So but maybe he still didn't have as much milk and honey as the other brothers and the other territories, but it's not true. Proportionally, he had much more. I saw the area, the size of how much milk and honey was flowing in the entire Eretz Yisrael. And how large was it? And that it was the area that is the distance from going from Beikuvi till the Akra de Tulbakni. Akra refers to a port, of the port that was called Tulbakni. It's a certain size of an area, and how large is that size of an area? Esrim v'tartan parsi orcha. It's a length of 22 parsa, upusya shita parsi, and it's a width of 6 parsa. Okay, so that's the Zavas Cholav Advash of the entire Eretz Yisrael. Now, if Zvulun in his place in Tzipoiri has 4 parsa by 4 parsa, proportionally, that's a very big percentage of the Zavas Cholav Advash from Eretz Yisrael. So Tzipoiri, in that sense, was a very good place. So what was he complaining about? So the Gemara, if we're going to say that Katrin is Tzipoiri in the portion of Zvulun, so the Gemara answers, Afila hachi sadis akramim adifile. Nevertheless, fields and vineyards was something that was better for him, and that he did not have. It was hills, it was a beautiful place, there was a lot of milk and honey there, but not fields and vineyards. That he didn't have. So we see this also from the pasuk that we quoted before, that this is what he was complaining about. He was complaining about the fact that Naphtali has beautiful fields. That's what he didn't have. Shema Mina, so I see that this is the way it is. So therefore we could still say that Katran is Tzipoiri, it's in the portion of Zvulun, but he still complained that he didn't have fields. Yeah. Of them is gesagt geworden, the grass is always greener on the other side. I mean, look, he has a beautiful place, milk and honey. Okay. Sagt the Gemara, Rabavahu said, now we're going, like I said, to other places, names of places and so on. The Akrain to Aker. This place called Akrain will be uprooted, Te'aker. Zukisri Bas Edom. This is the place called Kisri Bas Edom, in the place of Edom. Sheyesheves ben Achaylos. It's an area that is located between sands. V'hoisa Yeset Kul Yisrael. This was a place that was like a peg stuck into the Yidden, meaning it was an area that was very bad for the Yidden. And Bimei Yevonim, in the times, when was it bad for Yidden? In the times of the Yevonim. When the Chashmonaim were victorious over the Yevonim, they gave it a new name. What did they call it? Achidas Migdal Shir. Achidas means that they united it. In other words, they included it in Eretz Yisrael. They conquered this place and they called it Migdal Shir, a tower of Shir. So some of Farshim say this means that this was a tower. This was a very, very heavily fortified place, or it was a place that was difficult to conquer. That's where the Yevonim were located, or that's where they were, their capital city, and they came and they conquered this. So that's why they gave it this name. What's the meaning of another pasuk? So we were speaking over here about the Yevonim amongst the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael. So there's another pasuk that it says, "Vasiroisiv dam of mipiv." Asiroisi dam of mipiv. The Eibush says regarding Edom, I will remove the blood from his mouth, v'shikutzav mi ben shinov, and the filth from between his teeth. But then it says, "V'nisha gamhul elikenu," but it'll remain from him also for the Eibishter. So this refers to Edom and Golus. And the Gemara teaches what this means. What is the blood that the Eibishter takes away from Edom? This is an Avodah Zarah. That's called Bamya. That the Eibishter will break and remove when Mashiach comes. Ushikutzav mi bein shin of the Eibishter will remove the filth from between its teeth. This is a Beis Gali Shalem. Another Avodah Zarah that the Eibishter will remove. But what does it say that it will remain? The Nisha Gamula Lekainu, what does this mean? When Yidden are in Golus and the Beis HaKnesses and the Beis HaMedrash, that Yidden have there in Golus, that will remain for the Eibishter after Mashiach comes. And as I will have later in the Gemara, towards the end of Megillah, that all the Bati Knesses and Bati Midrashis will be joining in Eretz Yisrael. It will all fly to Eretz Yisrael. Another pasuk that we also darshan, this is actually the conclusion of the same pasuk. V'haya ka'aluf bi-Yehuda, it'll be like an aluf, like a general in Yehuda. Ve'akran ki-Yevusi, and Akran, which is going back to the city we mentioned before. Akran is that place which was like the capital city of the Yevonim. And that will turn into Yevusi. What's Yevusi? Rashi says Yevusi refers to Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim was built in a place which used to be owned by Yevusi. So therefore it goes in Yerushalayim. What does this refer to? Elu tratyois karkasois shebe'edek. This refers to the stadiums and to the circuses that Edom built up in the time of Galus. Shasidin Sare Yehuda Lumid ben Teire Berab. And when Mashiach comes, it will be taken over by the ministers of Yehuda. That's what the aluf means. It means the ministers of Yehuda, or others say actually that aluf means learning. Alef chachachma, to learn. That they're going to learn Teire Berabim in these huge stadiums that used to belong to Edom. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak said regarding another place, a name of a place, Leshem. This name Leshem, where is this? What is this? Zu Pamius. This is the place which is called Pamius. And Akrain Te'aker, when it says Akrain Te'aker, as we mentioned before, Zu Kisri Bas Edom. This is Kisri Bas Edom, the place of Edom. Shehi Yaisa Matropulin Shal Malachim. This was a Matropulin of kings. What does Matropulin mean? Rashi says Matropulin is a combination of two words. It's a Greek, and in Greek, Matra means mother, and Pulin means Lashon of Srara, Lashon of kings. So Matropulin means the mother of the place of the kings. And the Gemara explains what this means. Ikedamri, some say the Marbima Malki. That's the place where they would raise the princes. Vikedamri the Maikmi Mina Malki. That from there they would appoint the kings. Huh? Yeah, but over here Rashi says a different shot. Over here has a different meaning. Kisri Yerushalayim, you have these two cities of Kisri, which was the head capital city of the Yevonim, of Edom, and then you have Yerushalayim in Eretz Yisrael. If a person will come and tell you, both of these cities were destroyed, Al Tamin, don't believe him. Yashvushtein, if someone will tell you both of these cities are built up and settled, Al Tamin, you shouldn't believe him either. Charva Kisri v'Yashva Yerushalayim. If someone tells you that Kisri is destroyed and Yerushalayim is built up and settled, or the reverse, Charva Yerushalayim is destroyed, and v'Yashva Kisri, and Kisri is destroyed, then Tam, and then you can believe him. Shanama, the pasuk says, Amala imala, that is Hacharava. I fill from what's destroyed, which means in Malay Yezu, Charei V'Zu. In Malay Yezu, Charei V'Zu. When one is destroyed, the other is built. Or we see it from the following pasuk by Yaakov and Esav. These two nations will fight with one another, like Rashi there says. Kashazek comes and Neifel. Rabbi Yitzchak said the pshat in another pasuk. What does it mean? And it says in the pasuk, Yuchan Rasha, give grace, give love, or find favor for the Rasha. Balama tzedek, he doesn't learn any righteousness. What does this mean? Why is there favor if he doesn't find any righteousness? So this is a conversation between Yitzchak and the Eibishter about Esav. Yitzchak, if the Eibishter says to Yitzchak, that is, says to the Eibishter, Yuchan Esav, let's find favor in Esav. So the Eibishter responds, Rashahu, he's a Rasha. So Yuchan Rasha is what Yitzchak said. Rasha Balam is what the Eibishter responded. Amaloi Baal Loma Tzedek. Could he not learn righteousness? So this is actually also Yitzchak speaking. Yitzchak is saying you can't teach him righteousness. Amaloi. So the Eibishter responds. This is the continuation of that pasuk that the Eretz Nechaychais, in the land in Eretz Yisrael, which is a straightforward place. Yael, he will Ya'avel, that is Ya'avel. He will come and do bad there. He will destroy it. So the Amalai, so Yitzchak said, in Cain, if that's the case, that the descendants of Esav will destroy Eretz Yisrael, Baal Yireh Geis Hashem. He should not see the greatness of the Eibusha. And that's the conclusion of that pasuk. So this is, in Chassidus, we know this concept, that it explains Esav. Yitzchak wanted to be Megillah, the Shayrish of who Esav was. But Be'emes, even after you Megillah, the Shayrish of Esav, Och Esav LeYaakov, but nevertheless, of Esav Sanesius, Yaakov Ahafti, the Eibusha chooses Yidden. Don't give a Rasha what he desires. Don't take out his zmama. Zmama is like a leash that's attached with a nose ring to an animal. Don't remove that leash from the Rasha. Yerumusela, he tries to lift himself up. So what is this referring to? So here, Yaakov says to the Eibishter Rebbeinu, Shalayla, Master of the universe, Al titein le'esav arasha taivas libay. Don't give Esav his desire. Zmama al tafik. Don't take out that leash that's connected to his nose, and don't let him go out of your control. What does this refer to? Zu germamya shel Edom. This is germamya that comes from Edom. So now, if you look here in the bottom, at least in this Gemara, they have over here the others that are good is zu Germania, which refers to Germany. So this is Germany that comes from Edom. Shel male hey yaitzin. If you let them out of control, you let them out of the leash, machriven kol olam kula. They'll destroy the entire world. Rab Chama bar Chanina said, Tlas meya ketiri taga, there are 300 of those that are carrying a crown. Ketiri means it's tied to them, a crown. Ikke begermamia. You have in Germamia. There are 300 kings there, or 300 governors, whatever it is. Shal Edom, and they come from Edom. And also at the same time, Tlas meya v'shitten v'chamishe marzavani. Ikke beroimi. And there are also 365 marzavani, which is also kinds of ministers, that there are in Rome. And what happens? What does the Eibush to do? Ubechol yom, every day, nafki hani lape hani. These go out to fight with these. Umaktel chad minayo, and they kill one of the kings, get killed over here. Umitred loikim malka, and so they're busy with these battles, and they're busy appointing a new king. Why does the Eibush to do this? In order that they should be busy fighting with one another, and they shouldn't have time to destroy the world, and they shouldn't have time to harm the Yidden. Rab Yitzchak, and Rab Yitzchak said, and here's the very well-known Gemara. If a person will come and tell you, Yogaiti v'loy matzasi, I worked hard and I did not find. Al tam, and don't believe him. Lo yagaiti umatzasi, I did not work hard and I did find. Al tam, you shouldn't believe him either. Yogaiti umatzasi, if a person says I worked hard and I did find, tamin. Oh, then you should believe him. Then you know that that's true. Okay, so there's the famous vart that the Rebbe would always say about this. The Gemara doesn't say Yogaiti v'hisakti. Usually if you work on something, you achieve. That's the right expression. Why does it say umatzasi? You find. When a person goes out of his teva, yigia, when is there yigia? Yigia means when you do something out of your nature. Whatever is within your nature does not yet really mean true yigia. Matzasi, you'll find more than the nature. You'll find something like when a person finds something, mitzvah comes behesach hadas. That's what the Gemara here is saying. But now the Gemara qualifies this. Hanemili b'divrei Torah. This is all true when it comes to divrei Torah. Avol b'maso matan. When it comes to maso matan, sayatum and shemaya. Over here it is possible that a person works hard, but he needs siyata the shemaya. By Torah, so over there, if you go out of your nature, the bracha of mitzasi from the Eibishter comes. But when it comes to maso matan, it's possible that it should be a gaiti v'loy mitzasi. It comes from the Eibishter as you have to have siyata the shemaya for that. And the Gemara goes even further. And even regarding Torah as well, it wasn't said. Elom. Only to learn and to understand clear the sharpness of a subject, when it comes to understanding something. So over there, Yagaiti will bring matzasi. But for a person to remember what he learns, the memory, siyata mishmayihi. That's something you have to have siyata d'shmaya. It could be someone that works hard, but he still can't remember. Doesn't have that koyach of memory. So in other words, according to Rashi, when the Gemara says that when it comes to memory, we don't apply the same rule, that's only regarding Yagaiti umatzasi. But when you get to Lo Yagaiti umatzasi, that rule is true even regarding memory. That a person can't say Lo Yagaiti umatzasi, and I just remember. It doesn't work that way. That rule is true even regarding Oik Mishmaita, to remember what you learn. But regarding Yagaiti umatzasi, when it comes to memory, you need a special siyata d'shmaya for that. Rabbi Yitzchak said, you see a Rasha that he has the time that's laughing to him. In other words, things are going very good for him. Al tizgarabai. Do not instigate him, do not fight with him. Shenema, the pasuk says, Al tischa b'mereim, do not fight with those that are bad. He's in a time that his ways are going to be successful. Shenema yechilu drachav b'chaleis, that he's going to have atzlacha and everything that he does in all the time. This Rasha could be victorious in a court case, in a judgment. Shenema, the pasuk says, Maraim, mishpatecha minegdai. The Eibishter lifts up, the Eibishter removes a judgment against him. He sees victory against his enemies. Shenema kol tzeirav yafiach bam. He can, all of his enemies, he can just blow them away. So therefore, do not try to deal with a person you see a Rasha that Hashem mesachekas like. Fragt the Gemara, is this true? Eini, v'ha'amar Rav Yechanan mishum Rab Shimon ben Yochi, mutal is garis b'rishayim b'olam hazeh. You are allowed to be mizgara, you are allowed to instigate and fight with Rishayim in this world. Shenema, there's a pasuk that says, Oizvei teire yahalalu rasha, v'shayimrei teire yizgaru bam. That those that leave teire, yahalalu rasha, and v'shayimrei teire, those that keep teire, yizgaru bam. They do instigate, they do fight with these Rishayim. That's what Rabbi Shimon ben Yochi said. And also V'tanya Rabbi Stoi bar Matan Omar, another Tana, Rabbi Stoi bar Matan said, Mutel is garas b'rishayim b'olam hazeh. You're allowed to fight with the Rishayim in this world. V'im lochshach adam loymar. And if a person will come and whisper to you and he'll say, what do you mean? The pasuk says, Al tischa b'merayim, v'al tekana b'isavle, as we just quoted before. Do not fight with the bad people, and do not be jealous by those that do iniquity. So he's answered, someone that his heart is banging. In other words, someone that's skeptical, he's not strong. That he says, don't fight with Rishayim. Ella, the pasuk that was just quoted, you have to translate differently. Al tischa b'merayim means liyas k'merayim. Do not fight. In other words, do not want to be like the merayim. That's what it means. Val tekana ba'isa avla liyas ka'isa avla. It means don't be jealous to be like the Isa avla. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't fight with them. You could fight with Rishayim in this world. Vayim, there's another pasuk that says, Al yekana libcha b'chatoim. Don't be jealous of those that are sinning. So that's the question that we have, and what Rabbi Yitzchak said. Rabbi Yitzchak said, don't be mizgara with Rishayim. And here we see Rabbi Shimon ben Yochi, Rabbi Distoi, they both brought psukim that say that you could fight with Rishayim. So the Gemara says, Loi kashya, this is not a question, it depends. Ha b'mili didei. Here, when it comes to your own personal gashmis things, and there's a Rasha that's disturbing you, so don't fight with him when you see that things are going good for him. When it comes to things that are for the sake of heaven, for the Eibishter, so over there, if there's something that a Rasha is doing that you have to remove him, so then you could fight with him. In both cases, it's talking about things that are negated to you personally. But v'loi kashen, it's not a question. It depends what level you're on. Ha b'tzadik gomer and ha b'tzadik sheini gomer. If you're a tzadik gomer, then you could fight even with Rishayim that Hashem mesachekas loyim. But if you're not a tzadik gomer, you can't. Dam Ravuna mai d'chsiv lama sabit boigdim. Why do you look at those traitors? Tachrish, and your Eibishter is quiet. B'bala rasha tzadik mimenu. When a rasha swallows someone that's more righteous than him. So the Gemara explains. It says in the pasuk tzadik mimenu, that this is someone that's more of a tzaddik than the Rasha. He's not a full tzaddik. He's more of a tzaddik than the Rasha. So that's someone that the Rasha could swallow up. So tzaddik mimenu beileya. The Rasha swallows him. Tzaddik gomer ain't a beileya. But if you're a tzaddik gomer, you can fight with the Rasha and he won't be able to swallow up the tzaddik. Third answer, Shah misachekes loy shani. When it's a Rasha that the Shah is misachekes loy, when things are going good for him, then you can't start up with him. Rab Shimon ben Yochi wasn't talking about that. He said, Mutal is garis b'rishayim b'olam hazeh. This opinion is brought in my modern Mechsidis. The Rebbe brings this also in a Sikha in Parshas Vayera in Chelik Tezayin. And there the Rebbe actually brings from my modern that it says that Rab Shimon ben Yochi, at least according to some of the answers in the Gemara here, Dafke Rab Shimon ben Yochi was the one that said that you could fight with the Rasha, and even fight with the Rasha that Shashah Misachek. What's the reason for this? Because you find this by Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was sent to Parai, and he spoke to Parai very harsh and strong words, even though Parai was at the height of the world. He was Moshe B'Kippah, and he was definitely Shah Misachek. Nevertheless, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to bring down Parai. When you're at a level, on such a level of Moshe Rabbeinu, a Rebbe, a Nasi Adair, he has that kayach. And Rab Shimon ben Yochai, it says that the nitzutz of Moshe Rabbeinu is in Rab Shimon ben Yochai, so he says, and he has the kayach to go and fight even with a Rasha that Hashem Misachekes Lei. Talk to Gemara Amarule Italia Shal Yavan. This place, Italia Shal Yavan. So some say that this refers to a certain section in Italy. So Zeh Krach Godel Shal Reimi. This is a huge city in Rome. Rashi brings how Italia Shal Yavan came to be. That when it was in Eretz Yisrael, when Yidden was serving Avodah Zarah in the time of the first Beis Hamikdash, so Malach Gavriel came and stuck a kona into the ground, into the sea that is actually, and things gathered to it. It became an island, and it became bigger and bigger, and this became Italia Shal Yavan. So now, what was this place, Italia Shal Yavan? V'avya tlas meya parsa, tlas meya parsa. It's 300 parsa by 300 parsa. And v'yesh ba shin samachei shvakim. It has 365 marketplaces, kimi and Maisachama, like the number of the days of the year in the solar calendar. The Katan Shebekulam, the smallest marketplace there, Shamoichrei Eifis, of people that sell birds, so chicken, whatever, that's the smallest marketplace. And that marketplace, the smallest, is 16 mil by 16 mil. And the king over there has his meal every day in one of them, in one of the marketplaces. And Afalpi, and again, Vahadarba, that is, someone that lives there in Italia Shal Yavan, Afbishain and Nailidba, even though he wasn't born there, Naitel Prasmi based Melech. He also gets a portion from the house of the king. Nailidba, someone that was born there, Afbishain and Darba, even though he's not living there now, Naitel Prasmi based Melech, he could also come and take a portion from the king there. Ushleishis Halafim Bebani Yeshbai, there are 3,000 bathhouses there. V'chamesh Meyes Chalaines, and 500 windows, Mailin Oshan, that they allow the smoke to go out, Chutz L'chaima, that's above the wall. This sounds like to be like some kind of an exhaust. When they had these ovens that were cooking, so they have this exhaust, and this exhaust was these windows that was like above the walls, maybe like a chimney that was above the walls in order that the walls shouldn't get dirty. Tzidei echad yam, on one side of Italia Shal Yavan is water. Tzidei echad harem v'gvois, on another side there's hills and mountains. Tzidei echad mechitza shel barzel, on another side has an iron wall. V'tzidei echad chulsas u'metzula, and on another side it has pebbles and swamps. So it's a very well protected city. It's maybe it's a continuation, just another name of a place. We were talking about different places and names of places. That's Mishnah, going back to Megillah. What happened if they read the Megillah on Adar and it turns out to be that it's Adar Rishon? Because V'nis Abra Shana, and now there's a second Adar. So what do? Do you have to read the Megillah again? Yes. You have to read the Megillah again in Adar Sheni. There's no difference between the first Adar and the second Adar. Only the only difference is regarding the hearing the Megillah and Matanas Lav Yainim. That must be done in the second Adar. So if you heard it in the first, you have to repeat it in the second. Mishnah doesn't say what's the halacha regarding Mishloach Manis, but Mishloach Manis is definitely the same as Matanas Lav Yainim because it's very similar to Matanas Lav Yainim. When it comes to the Suda, the Mishnah V'Simcha, so that it doesn't say here either. Taisva speaks about it, and Taisva actually has a svara to say that Mishnah V'Simcha should be both, the first and the second Adar. But then Taisus concludes that the halacha payal is that in the first Adar you don't have to have Mishnah V'Simcha, and the second Adar is when you have the Suda of Purim, Mishnah V'Simcha. But there's the famous Ramah that says in the end of Shulchan Aruch, V'toiv leiv Mishnah Tamid, even when you get to the first Adar. Okay, so now the Gemara is medayik as follows. Halinyin say the Parshiyos. When it comes to the say the Parshiyos, this refers to the four Parshas that we read: Parshas Shkolim, Parshas Achedesh, and so on, and all the Parshas Zacher and right Zacher, Parah, and Achedesh. So when it comes to these Parshiyos, when do we do this? Do we do this by the first Adar or the second Adar? So it seems like Zev Zeh Shavin, that both are the same, which means if you read it in the first Adar and then it became a Shana Muberet, you don't have to read it over again in the second Adar. Right? Because the Mishnah said only regarding Megillah and Matanas Lav Yainim you have to read it over again. So if so, Mani Mas Nisin, according to who is our Mishnah going to go? And the Gemara will bring a Braisa and we'll see that it's Loit Tanakama, Loit Rab Eliezer B'Rab Yesi, V'Loit Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. Not like any of the following three opinions that we have here in this Braisa. The Tanya will learn in the Braisa, Koros HaMegillah B'Adar Yishayin, if they read the Megillah, the first Adar. V'nis Abra Shana, and then there's a second Adar, Kairan Isa B'Adar Sheni, you have to read over the Megillah in the second Adar. Shekol mitzvahs shenoig is b'sheni, noig is b'rishon. Whatever mitzvahs there are in the first Adar are also in the second Adar. That is, there is also in the first Adar. Chutz b'mikra Megillah. besides Megillah. Megillah, if you read it in the first Adar, you have to read it again in the second Adar. So he only mentions Megillah, nothing else. Now, the second opinion, Rabbi Eliezer but Rabbi Yosi Omar, Ein Kairin Oisa Ba'da Hasheni. If you read it in the first Adar, you don't have to read it over in the second Adar. Shekol mitzvahs shenoigis b'sheni, noigis b'rishon. Whatever mitzvahs there are in the second Adar, you can do in the first Adar, and once you read it, it's done. That's it. You read it in the first Adar. The third opinion, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says the name of Rabbi Yosi, Af Kairin Oisa Ba'da Hasheni. You do have to also read it over in the second Adar. Shekol mitzvahs shenoigis b'sheni, ein noigis b'rishon. Whatever mitzvahs there are in the second Adar, you don't have in the first Adar. Everybody agrees when it comes to hesped and tainus that you're not allowed to fast or make a hesped on Yudalet and Tezvav. So before the Gemara goes back to explaining that our Mishnah doesn't go like any of these opinions, the Gemara says, wait a minute, Rab Shimon Gamliel seems to be saying the exact same thing as the first Tana of this Braisa. Rab Shimon Gamliel, Hainu Tana Kama, they both said, if you read Megillah the first Adar, you have to read it over in the second Adar. So Rav Papa says, Rav Papa, say the Parshiyah Sekebenayu. What they're arguing about is not regarding Megillah, but they're arguing about the 4 Parshiyas, whether if you read it in the first Adar, do you have to read it over in the second Adar. Tanakama Savar, the Tanakama says, L'chatchila B'sheni. L'chatchila, the 4 Parshiyas are read in the second Adar. V'yavid B'rishain, if you already had read it in the first Adar, Ovid. So b'di'evid it's done, and you don't have to read it over again in the second Adar. Bar mimikra Megillah, the af al gav, the kara b'rishon, kara b'sheni. Megillah, even b'di'evid, even once you read it in the first Adar, you do have to read it over in the second Adar. Right? That's what the Tanakama said. All other mitzvahs, everything else, once it's done in the first Adar, it's done. Rabbi Yosi says, "Afila mikra Megillah, even Megillah l'chatchila b'rishon. You can l'chatchila go and read it in the first Adar. You don't have to read it in the second Adar." Rav Shimon Gamliel says, "Afila say the Parshiyas. Even when it comes to the Parshiyas, ikaro b'rishon, karo b'sheni. Even b'di'evet, after you read it in the first Adar, you must read it over in the second Adar." Those are the 3 opinions in this Braisa. So now it's going to come out that our Mishnah is not like any of these opinions. Why? Mani, who is our Mishnah? Tanakame. If you're going to say that our Mishnah is a Tanakame, it doesn't work. Kashya matanais. The question would be regarding Matanas Lavyanim. In our Mishnah it said that Matanas Lavyanim must be in the second Adar, and the Tanakama here said only Megillah must be the second Adar. He didn't mention Matanas Lavyanim. And if you would say our Mishnah is Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yosi, for sure not. Kashya nami mikra Megillah. Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yosi said you can read Megillah in the first Adar. Rab Shimon Gamliel, and if you're going to say that it's according to Rab Shimon Gamliel, Kashi say the Parshiyas, then there'll be the question regarding say the Parshiyas, which Rab Shimon Gamliel said must be in the second Adar, and we were medayik before from our Mishnah that the say the Parshiyas could be in the first Adar. So the Gemara gives 2 answers here. Lo'olam Tanakama. Really, you can say that our Mishnah is the Tanakama. And Vitana Mikra Megillah, V'u Adem Matanas Lavyanim. Even though the Tana in this Braisa only mentioned Megillah, but he means Matanas Lavyanim as well. Why? Daha Baha Talya. As we already learned before, Mikra Megillah and Matanas Lavyanim go together. The poor people wait to see when they read Megillah to come get their Matanas Lavyanim. By saying, or I can tell you another answer. Lo'olam Rab Shimon Gamliel. Really, our Mishnah is Rab Shimon Gamliel. And so we were medayik before from our Mishnah that the Seder Parshiyas could be read in the first Adar. But that's not true. You can't be medayik that way. The Gemara explains. In our Mishnah there's missing something, or actually some teka chasuri mechsere, because it's not really going to say that there's anything missing in our Mishnah, but it's going to explain that the diuk that we said before is not a diuk. This is what it said in our Mishnah. No distinction between Yudalet of Adarisha and Yudalet of the second Adar. Ela mikra Megillah u'matanos. Only Megillah and Matanas Lavyanim that has to be in the second Adar. Hali inyan hesped v'tainis zeveh shavin. When it comes to hesped and tainis, they're both equal. V'ilus seide parshiyas loymairi. What you should be medayik from our Mishnah is that regarding hesped and tainis, they're the same. But regarding the seide parshiyas, our Mishnah is not talking about this. So there's no diuk about that. So therefore, there's no contradiction from our Mishnah if you go according to Rab Shimon Gamliel's opinion.
He does add in. He adds in Yudalet.
Who? No. Okay, so how does that change? Okay, no. Amar Rab Chiya bar Rabban Amar Rab Yochanan Hilchase Rab Shimon Gamliel Shamim Mishum Rab Yosi. We follow the opinion of Rab Shimon Gamliel that he said in the name of Rab Yosi. Rab Yochanan Nishneim Mikra Echad Darshu. So this argument here, whether you read Megillah and Adarishan or you read Megillah and Adar Sheni, they're both darshaning the same pasuk. What does it say in the pasuk? B'chol shana v'shana. We had this before already. That every year it has to be the same. Rabbi Yesi Sava b'chol shana v'shana has to be similar to every single year. Ma kol shana v'shana, just like every single year. Adar asamach l'shvat. When is Purim? The Adar that's by Shvat. Afkan Adar asamach l'shvat. So to here it has to be the first Adar near Shvat. We compare it to every year. Ma kol shana v'shana Adar asamach l'nissen has to be the Adar that's near Nissen. Afkan Adar asamach l'nissen. So to here it should be Adar that's near Nissen. So the Gemara says, "Now bish Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yasi, we can understand what he's saying. Mistavet time. When he says that it should be the first Adar near Shvat, that makes sense. Why? Ein mavirin ala mitzvahs. When it comes the first opportunity to do the mitzvah in Adar, so you grab the opportunity right then. You're not allowed to pass a mitzvah. El Rav Shimon Gamliel, my time. Why does Rav Shimon Gamliel say to wait until the second Adar? Amar Rav Tavi, time that Rav Shimon Gamliel, mismach geula legeula. We want that the geula of Purim should be closer to the geula of Pesach. That's why Adif. That's more important. That's stronger than the union of Eim Avin Ala Mitzvahs. Okay, we'll continue Mitzvah Shem. It's a continuation, but we'll continue Mitzvah Shem Mitzvah Shabbos.